Okay, and I think we are live. So, hi everyone, and welcome to Avon Book Fest. It's so great to see so many of you tuning in for our May event, and we have a brilliant panel for you this Friday lunchtime. We have three fabulous authors here to talk to you today, but before I hand over to them, I wanted to quickly let you know just a little bit about us at Avon. So I'm Beth, editorial assistant at Avon, and I head up our open submissions process. We are a commercial fiction division of HarperCollins, and we're actively on the lookout for new writers. We've just opened up a brand new submissions process, so if you've written a book and think we might be a good fit, then please do visit our website on www, I hope this is the right way around, avonbooks.co.uk/submissions, and please do follow the submission guidelines. You don't need a literary agent to submit to us in this way or need to have any experience of being published before. We're always just after a brilliant story and we can't wait to read your novels. Now, I'm delighted to introduce today's panel. Leading our discussion today, we have Sunday Times best-selling author Miranda Dickinson, who began her fantastic literary career with Avon. She'll be chatting with two of our debut authors, Hayley Doyle and Hannah Sunderland. Hayley's debut, Never Saw You Coming, is a gorgeous love story about taking risks and living life to the full. It's out now and perfect for weekend reading if you want to pop it on your Kindle. Hannah's debut, Very Nearly Normal, is also a love story, heartbreaking and uplifting in equal measure, with a jaw-dropping twist, and it's available for pre-order for publication in 2 weeks' time. So, no more from me. Without further ado, over to you, Miranda, to kick things off.
Well, hello and welcome. Isn't this a fantastic panel? I feel so lucky. And the books that we're going to be hearing about today are amazing. So if you haven't already got them on your wish list or you haven't already bought them, go and pre-order now and buy them right now because they're wonderful. So I'm going to ask some questions. The ladies are going to talk and we're going to find out lots of exciting stuff. So first off, lovely ladies, thank you very much for joining us. Your books are fantastic and they're wonderful debuts. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks. So how are you all feeling with the new books coming out? Are you feeling excited? Is it nerve-wracking? How does it feel?
Well, I don't have anything to judge this against. So my book came out nearly a month ago tomorrow. It was the 2nd of April. It was released as everyone was knee deep into lockdown. In the build up to it, before the whole lockdown was announced, I had lots of lovely events planned and it was, total dream come true. I've wanted to be an author since I can remember. And it was all finally happening. I was going to Waterstones in Liverpool, my home city, to do a launch. You know the story. And obviously everything was cancelled. So the actual build up closer to the time and publication day, other than my little dreams in my head, I had nothing to compare it to. So it wasn't a disappointment at all. It was actually lovely because I felt this incredible love from social media, from this book community that I'm so new to. I was welcomed with open arms on social media. And I kind of spent the whole day in my kitchen. I got a lovely bouquet of flowers from Avon that arrived, and my agent. And my sister popped round, left a bottle of champagne on the doorstep for me.
Wonderful.
And I just sort of sat on my computer all day, just answering messages on social media. And I have to say, it was a really lovely day. And I've kept that positivity going and just tried to put it out there on social media as much as possible to... if you want something uplifting in lockdown, give my book a go. If it looks like your cup of tea.
Perfect. It is wonderful, wonderful story. Hannah, how are you feeling? 2 weeks to go.
Yeah, it's exciting. When the lockdown came into force, I was dreading it a little bit because I didn't know how well it was going to go. But seeing how well people have, as like other authors as well, getting behind debuts and like posting about it, getting it out there. So yeah, it's all been very positive.
Wonderful. Oh, it's so good. Right, so I'm going to start with Hayley. Your book is set between Dubai and Liverpool. Can you tell us why you chose those two locations?
Well, if you haven't guessed already, I'm from Liverpool, and it's home city, so close to my heart, full of amazing characters. Everyone in Liverpool's a storyteller. Everyone's got a funny story to tell. We are, at heart, we're storytellers. So I love setting my stories in Liverpool with Scousers. But also, I was an expat in Dubai for 7 years. Came back a couple of years ago, and it was strange. When I was in Dubai, I didn't feel like writing about it. But since I've come back with, it's kind of just refreshed it. It's easier to write about in hindsight, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I wanted to paint it in a good light as well. I think the media can paint quite a nasty picture of Dubai, the British media as well, especially. And until you've lived it and know it, it's one of those places you shouldn't really have an opinion on, because it's a very unique place, and it has its good points and its bad points, but it does have a lot of good. And I wanted to just paint it in a truthful light like that. So I thought, let's put those two places on the map for my story.
Wonderful. It really sings off the page as well. They're almost characters in themselves in the book, I felt, when I was reading it.
It was I read a quote on Sex and the City once. It was when I was studying writing. I did a master's in writing, and when we did like something on location, it was said that New York's like the 5th character in Sex and the City. I loved that, because I was like, don't just focus on your characters. Your location, your setting can have a personality of its own as well. And I like to put that in my writing as well.
That's wonderful. It really comes across. Thank you very much. Okay, so Hannah, your turn. Now, Effie isn't having a very good time in your book. Can you tell me why that is?
Well, she's quite a cantankerous person anyway, so I don't think she enjoys having a good time. But she's 28. She's still living at home with her parents. She loves her job at this bookshop she works in, but it's not really getting her anywhere. She has this dream that she wanted to be a writer, which just hasn't come true for her. And her love life consists of terrible Tinder dates with terrible people. But all of that kind of changes at the start of the book. She doesn't change from her cantankerous ways very easily, but she'll get there.
It's really good, because I really felt when I read your book that it's Effie's journey is so beautiful. It takes you on such a journey as an author, as a reader.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that she wasn't Sweetness and Light and Chocolate Box and God's Hollow, and she had edges to her, and that made me want to find out more about her as a reader, which I really love. That's a really difficult thing to do, but it was just really brought you into the narrative, so it was wonderful.
Yeah, okay. I wanted the love story to be part of it, but I wanted the main journey of the story to be Effie sorting her life out.
Yeah, and it's such a lovely balance of both of them. It's wonderful. Now we have got some questions that are coming in. If you want to ask a question during this time, just pop a question in the question and answer box, and we can see it here, and I'll feed it into these lovely authors, and then they'll be able to answer them for you. So I'm going to pick one. Is that okay? And then we'll go back to the list that we've got. So we've got a viewer has asked, what has been the best part of your publishing journey so far? So Hayley, do you want to go first?
Okay, so what gives me a little buzz at the moment is when I get a message from, sounds weird, when I get a message from a stranger. I've been getting,
this would be a good thing.
I've been getting some messages from people I don't know who just love the story, and they really get it. They get it in the same way that like my mum got it, or one of my best friends, and they say, my best friends has read it and say, I can kind of see bits of you in there. They're responding in a similar way. And that to me is everything, because it means I haven't just written a book for people who know me or know my jokes and my sense of humor. It is more universal, and I always feel like I'm making friends with these people, because I'll chat to them about what they liked about it, and and then we following each other on social media, and that's actually been lovely, really, really lovely. And it does give me a buzz to know that people are out there. It's not just, my family sitting at home reading my book, as much as that's lovely. But it's nice to know that, wow, it is selling. People are picking it up and reading it. That's amazing.
Wonderful. So, and that thrill never goes away. I mean, my 11th book comes out in September, and it never goes away. The fact that someone that's never met you kind of knows you because they've read all your words. It is the weirdest thing, but it's such a lovely thing. So Hannah, what about you? What's your favourite part so far?
I think my favourite and most memorable part was actually right at the beginning when I got accepted by an agency, because I'd been wanting to have a book published for like over a decade, and my mum was the only one home at the time, and I was at the top of the garden when I got the email from my agent saying that they wanted me, and I ran down the garden kind of squealing, and she was panicking because she thought something had happened to the cat. And I was like, they want me, and then I just lay on the floor and cried for about half an hour. So I think that was my favourite moment.
That is so lovely. See, I got the phone call from Avon. I got picked from Autonomy, which was kind of, they have the open submissions process now. So if you have a book and you think that you'd like to go on the journey that Hannah and Hayley have been on, that I've been on, send it to Avon, because you never know. Because I got picked from a website that HarperCollins had called Autonomy. And it was called the Digital Slush Pass. I didn't even have an agent. And the day that I had the phone call from Avon saying, we'd like to publish you, I was sat in the car park of the place I was working, and the security guard came over to see me because I was in tears in my car. I think he thought something was going wrong. Excellent. Okay, question for Hayley from Eleanor Pilcher. This is for Hayley. I'm also a Scouser and currently writing a crime novel set in Liverpool. Ooh. I love the fact that you've set a story there. How did you deal with trying to ensure readers understood Scouse slang? Good question.
Okay, that's a really good question, because I was quite bold, actually. I do think there might be some readers maybe from other countries will be a bit like, at Jim's slang. But I've tried, in having Zara, who's not a Scouser, she's then there to ask the questions that readers can ask. So I think in one of the very early chapters, Zara's wandering around Liverpool and she's a bit lost. And some guy on the street, he says something to her, and he says, oh, that's boss. And she'll say, what's boss? And then he's
good, yeah.
Oh, great. I think that something like that happens. So I used the slang so that the person who's not from Liverpool can then can question it. And also, I was quite consistent with it. So Jim's got a lot of Scouse mates and his mum, and I used it quite consistently so that you start getting into their jargon. You start knowing, they're always going to say that when they're happy, or they're always going to say that when they're sad. But I just went for it because, accents, Britain's so brilliant for accents. I've got a friend who's a Geordie, and I could listen to her all day. And I just think, our accents need to be celebrated. When you go outside of England and, the Americans think we all talk like that. We don't, and we should really embrace our accents and, send them out there. So I would say go for it. And if you're working with a good editor, they will point out bits that you've gone a bit too far or something like that, but just go with it with the Scouse slang, and try and be creative with your other characters. Maybe just have some other characters that aren't from Liverpool who can maybe sometimes question, what the hell are you talking about?
Excellent. Hannah, we've had a question about agents, and you mentioned that your agent told you that she was taking you on. Had you written the whole of the book before you sent it to your agent? Had you just sent her some sample chapters? How did you approach finding an agent? Because it's such a scary thing.
Yeah, well, I bought the Writers and Artists Yearbook, which was it's just like a phone directory basically for everyone you need to know, and sent it out to agents, and got a couple of rejections back at the beginning, thought that it wasn't going to go anywhere. And then one day I got a phone call from Eleanor at CMM agency. And she said, I've been sending you emails because I've read the first 3 chapters of your book and I'd like to read some more. And these emails, to this day, we have no idea where they've gone.
Oh, wow. No.
So that was that could have just been the end of it, really, if she hadn't been so keen on it. But so I sent her the full manuscript, and then it was about a month of agonising waiting.
That's such a long wait, isn't it?
As I said, I ran down the garden and cried for half an hour when she wrote back.
It's the surrealist thing when that happens, isn't it? Because you're kind of going, oh, no, I won't hear anything. It's going to be a no. And when it is, it's wonderful. Yeah. Excellent. Let's just have a look at the questions that are coming in. Okay, lovely question from Saba. Lovely Saba. Hi, Saba. She said, did you both know the ending to your books before you started writing, or did you find out on the way? Who wants to go with that one?
My ending was originally very different.
Really? Okay. Tell us about it.
Well, when I started this story, I didn't know the ending, I'll be honest. I had, Jim was always Jim. always, always, always. You know, he was, being from Liverpool, my sister used to live in the Wirral, and I'd go through the Mersey Tunnel a lot. And I thought, wonder what the people who work at the Mersey Tunnel, what they're thinking, what they're doing. So I always had this strong character. Zara wasn't as strong. She took a while to shape, and I knew I wanted them to meet, but I didn't really know how it was going to end. And then when I finally did figure out the ending and the sort of, the twist and everything like that, that was great. And I thought I was done. And then it wasn't quite right, and I changed the ending again. So it was a big journey, I have to say, finding the ending. Yeah.
Change. Hannah, how about you? Did you know where your book was going? Do you have an idea, or you had a really strong idea of what was going to happen?
I knew kind of where I wanted it to end up, but I didn't know quite how she'd get there. So I just wrote towards the goal of where I wanted her to be, and just kind of shaped it around that. And it came quite easily when I actually came to write the ending.
I think if you know where you want your character to be, sort of emotionally and mentally, and if you know their personal journey, then it doesn't really matter how it ends when you start it. I think for me, the problem is finding that absolute growth. That's the most important thing. That's the hardest thing, and how that happens at the end creatively will come to you during the process.
Yeah.
Were you surprised with how much your story changed going through edits? Because no one really prepares you for editing that first book. I remember I sent off the first manuscript of Fairy Tale of New York, which was my debut novel, and I cried because I thought I'd never see those characters again. And then I finished the book about 8 more times before it came out. I was quite so upset about it. So how do you feel? Did it change a lot? Was it brutal? How did you take the editing process?
I think now editing my second book, doing quite a big edit on it, which I've been told not that big an edit. I mean, it feels like that to me. I'm taking it on the chin. It's like I was prepared for it. I had time set aside. I was like, I know this is going to be draft 2 is going to be a huge job.
Yeah.
Whereas I think when I got Never Saw You Coming's first, then second, then third-ish draft and things like that, it was a bit like, oh my God, I'm never going to get there, And by the time I did hand it in, finally hand it in, I was like, oh, good riddance. Oh, I'm sick of them. And then it's nice that it's come out. I've fallen in love with them again. But now I'm kind of with book 2, it is easier to know that there are bits that you might have really enjoyed writing that, they just don't work. And I'm finding that easier now. I'm looking at something, how can I fit that bit in? I really like that bit. And then I just go, cut. Yeah, save it for another time.
I think it always feels brutal, and there's always a bit where you go, that's really obvious, and you go, actually it's not, it's in my head. I need to go back and fix it. Hannah, how about you? How much did your story change?
With Very Nearly Normal, we didn't change that much. We added a few bits in just to make the story move along more believably. But we didn't have to do like a change in structure or anything, which I think I got away quite lightly with the first one. I don't know if it's going to be quite as smooth with the second. But with you, Hayley, saying you had to cut parts out, with the second one I'm writing now, I have this beloved character that was a main character, and talking with agents and editors and stuff, they were like, well, we think this would be better. So I've had to push him right to the side. I was like, But yeah, it is for the best, but it does hurt, doesn't it?
It does.
It's really scary. It is really scary.
The characters are alive. You put so much into them and so much thought, but no one might ever read them. Or it's weird.
Excellent. We've had a question. I would be interested to hear your thoughts on this. Can you give some tips on the dreaded writing a synopsis? Oh, I hate that. It's my least favourite bit. How did you approach writing a synopsis for your books? We'll start with Hannah this time.
Well, before you start, you think, how am I ever going to condense like 100,000 words down into half a page? And it does seem like a completely impossible task. And so I just tend to first write it out in bullet points of what definitely has to go in, and the little frilly bits on the side that I can chop off and shorten it down. And then I just tend to write it, and it's usually about 4 pages long, and then just slowly cut it down. But it's not an easy job to do at all.
Yeah. It's hard. Have you got any tips, Hayley? How did you find it?
Well, I always worry that if I'm not writing fiction, then what I'm writing, someone's going to read it and go, God, she's a terrible writer. Because, even if it's, for example, if it's an email that I've got kind of a lot to say, or, I want to have a chat to my agent about something, I'd rather just pick up the phone because I'll waffle in an email. Whereas if I'm writing a book, I spend time on it, I think about every sentence. And I felt like that about the synopsis. I was like, if I write the synopsis and send that off, they're going to be like, ooh, she's a terrible writer. But I was given advice once from a course that I did, that with the synopsis, if to send to agents and everything, you don't have to keep surprise. You don't have to put any suspense in there. They basically want to know where the story goes, so you can put the ending in. Don't write it with any suspense, with any surprises in it. Just say, this is what happens in the story, this is what they want to do. That really helped me, because I was like, oh, okay, I think I can do that. I've been told exactly what to do there. That's okay. But I think, if you're trying to flower it and make it interesting, don't just save that for your actual writing.
Excellent. Now, I realised at the start, being I made a mistake at the start, that I didn't ask you to tell us what your books are about. Oh, we want people to go and buy these books afterwards. This is just the basic start of an interview. I think I'm going to be sad. I'm never going to get a job with the BBC. But so, Hannah, can you tell us what Very Nearly Normal is about without any spoilers?
Okay. So Effie, as I said before, is a 28-year-old girl who has absolutely no idea what she's doing with her life. She's kind of found herself in a rut that she thought would work itself out and never really did. She's still living at home with her parents, and she spends a lot of time on social media looking at everyone else who has their lives together and has these gorgeous fiancés and London apartments and really high-powered jobs, and she's got nothing really apart from a slight addiction to wine. She goes on a really terrible Tinder date with someone awful, and during this date she meets Theo, who then goes on a kind of journey with her to turn her life into what she wants it to be.
Excellent. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Go and pre-order it right now. Hayley, tell us about your book.
So it's about two people from very different worlds. We've got Jim, who's a Scouser, works at the Mersey tunnels. He's quite an intelligent lad, but just life's thrown him quite some shitty cards, really. So he's stuck in a rut, a big rut, and doesn't really know how to get out of it, and doesn't really have any ambition to get out of it. Then we've got 4,000 miles away, we've got Zara, who is an expat. She's lived all over the world and currently lives in Dubai. Very lost. She's had quite a lot of ups and downs in relationships, and she wants to take a chance and go and meet who she thinks is the love of her life. And on this journey to Liverpool to meet the guy who she thinks is the love of her life, she encounters Jim. I won't tell you how. And once these two characters meet, that's when the real journey begins. And it's a lot of self-discovery. There's a lot of humour and some heartache, and just figuring out, are you in the right place? Is a door going to open to me? Maybe if the door isn't going to open to me, is a window going to open to me, and am I going to go through that? So there's a lot of those kind of things. So it's kind of your unconventional boy meets girl.
Excellent. Can we just check where your mic is, lovely? Because you've gone really quiet, and I don't want anyone. Have you got it? There we are. Yes.
Hello.
You suddenly went really quiet in the middle. So tell us again. Sorry, I'm sorry. Can you tell us again? About halfway through, you went really, really quiet, and I want people to be able to hear about your book because Never Saw You Coming is wonderful. So if you could just tell us, say that again.
Fine. Can you hear me now?
You can hear you now. Yes, it's great.
Maybe it just started to rain outside. I'm going to blame that. So it's an unconventional boy meets girl. We've got Jim, who is a Scouser. He's very intelligent, but he works in the Mersey tunnels because life hasn't dealt him the greatest cards. He's stuck in a rut, and that's him. We've got Zara, 4,000 miles away in Dubai, who wants to get out. Things aren't going well for her either. She travels 4,000 miles to meet who she thinks is the love of her life, and meets Jim on the way. And what happens when they meet begins a whole journey of self-discovery and a journey of risk-taking and life.
Wonderful, wonderful. We caught every word. That's great. The opposite thing with Zoom, I always at some point doing a meeting like this, you always get someone going, "What? Sorry, hey?" Or someone goes really loud. So thank you very much, ladies. Now we've got lots of lovely questions coming in. So here's a good one. At what point did you know your first book or your first manuscript was ready to share with an agent or submit? What's the point when you finally go, "I've done as much as I can"? And what was it about the story that made you think this is ready to go? I'm going to ask Hannah first.
I think I went back through, once I'd finished the first draft, I think I went back through it 6 or 7 times just because I wanted it to be as good as it could possibly be. And I think it was at the point where I couldn't bring myself to read it an 8th time, because what you don't know if you're not an author is how many times you end up reading your own book. So, at the 8th time I was like, no, someone else can read it now. And I made sure it was as good as it could be, and then decided to send it out into the world.
Excellent. Yeah, you do get to the point of like, I'm so sick of my own words, I want to go read somebody else's. That's it. Hayley, how about you?
It was a bit different for me. So I've had I've written other books that didn't make it before this one, and I was sad at the time, but I'm so happy that they didn't make it now. I'm so glad that it's this one that did it. So I'd written one, I did a master's about 10 years ago, and the dissertation for the master's was to write 50,000 words of a novel or something. I can't remember what the word count was, but or you could write a novella. So I started this novel that I really wanted to write, and then I just continued with that, and that's the one I sent off because I'd won a prize for it at the university, so I kind of had a bit of confidence behind me, so I finished it and sent it off. And I did get an agent through that, but then that book didn't make it to publication, and we worked together on, you know, a slightly different voice, something a bit more contemporary. And I had the advice of the agency then for when it was ready for someone else to read. But yeah, I know what you mean. It gets to a point where you're just reading over it, and your head's going to explode. So you need that confidence of someone else to read it, even if they're going to tell you, look, and I've had it, this is not working, I'm sorry, I think you're going to have to write something else. It's actually the best thing you can hear, because then you're not wasting your time.
Yeah. I do think as well, people always think that a book's got to be 100% polished before it goes to an agent or an editor, and I think it has to be the strongest you can possibly make it, and definitely the first 3 chapters have to really grab the reader to bring them in. But the amount that it changes during the time you're editing it is quite surprising. And like you said, the first edit is very often writing more, which you don't tend to think of with editing. So I think that's always the thing I get asked by people who want to get books published is, you know, well, I've been editing it for the last 25 years and I don't know if I'm ready. And it's kind of, you're probably ready. If you're just moving words around, you're not really, you know, it's not, it's ready to go now, send it off. Very scary. Okay. Oh, here's a good one. People say that your first novel is always quite autobiographical. What do you think? How much of your novels are based on your own life and your own experiences? And in brackets it says, if that's not too nosy. I love that we have a very respectful viewership today. It's great. So Hannah, is it autobiographical? Are there bits in that you wanted to bring in?
Yes, Effie's in a place that I was with, not knowing where my life was, about 3 years ago. And I felt like a lot of people my age don't really know what they want to do and have found themselves in a situation that they didn't really ever think they'd be in. So Effie's a bit of me. I wouldn't like to say she's completely me. But I think Theo, my other main character, is probably the nicer sides of me, and Effie's probably the worst one.
I do think you get to say things as characters that you would never say in real life.
What you've been wanting to say for a long time.
Yeah, it's just like, can I just get that zinger in? That's brilliant. No, it wasn't me, it was my character. No, it's totally. How about you, Hayley?
So I think because I'd written other books before, I got a lot out of my system. That book that I was talking about that I got with the agency was based on something that happened to me when I was 8. But even though what happened, it was just a sort of, you know, very nice, memorable day of my life, then I massively fictionalized it. everything about the whole story was just, you know, magically fictional, but it was based on me as an 8-year-old and something that happened to me, and other characters, you know, based on my nan and things like that. So, and I spent a long time on that book, and I'm really glad I did it because it got me the agent, and, you know, it's all part of the process. So I got a lot out of my system there and started to find my voice. And, you know, even before, when I started sampling writing in my early 20s, I was writing about, you know, my current situation, my flatmates, but giving them all different names and stuff like that. So I did do a lot of that originally. And now I definitely fictionalize a lot more. I do probably the other way around now. I go in for the fiction and then draw on and bring personal stuff in. I mean, there's definitely parts of Zara that when she's annoying the hell out of me, and I know she annoys like readers, I'm like, oh God, it's because I know I do that. I've done that. I overthink like that. But then there's a lot of Jim, a lot of me and Jim as well.
Yeah.
So even though, you know, it's not me at all, and he hasn't had an upbringing like me, and, you know, he's male for a start, there are just little bits of him, you know, maybe his values or something that is me, or is, yeah, my roots and stuff. Yeah.
It's really interesting, actually. The more books you write, you can kind of, you know, what was happening in your life at the time when that was happening. So I mean, I'm coming to my 11th year of writing, and I go, oh, well, that was the year that, you know, I met my husband, and that was the year when this happened.
Yeah.
And kind of unwittingly, the things that you were thinking about and that were important to you at that time kind of weave their way into your book. But I don't think you sit down and go, right, I'm going to be an autobiography, you know, this one's going to be all about me. I think as a writer, you kind of pick things from different places and they all appear, which is then really interesting, because it's like your own little chronicle. Sorry.
I don't think I could have written Never Saw You Coming if I hadn't moved back to England and looked back on my time in Dubai and what got me there and what my reasons. You know, I've got a separate story that's, you know, my personal story of why I went out there and what happened to me out there. But all of that somehow made this story happen. And I tell you what, it's really weird. I only realised that after I'd finished it. And I was like, that happened. And so when people are like, is it about you moving to Dubai? And I'm like, no, it's not about me moving to Dubai at all or anything like that. Then I've gone, oh my God, I think it kind of is. It's so weird how I find things that have happened to me are easier to write about once they've happened and it's digested and I've moved on to maybe another little chapter in my life. So, you know, I've got 2 young kids now. I've got a baby and a toddler. And I'm not sure I could write a novel about motherhood with young kids right now. But maybe when they're older, I'll go in for it. You know, I'll be able to do that. I'm currently now enjoying writing about couples before they've had children, or couples who want to, and things like that. Or, you know, people finding their love and settling down in their 30s. So, yeah. Whereas I think some people are different. Some people can write about what is happening to them and it's very raw right now. Yeah.
Excellent. We've got more questions coming in, and actually that ties in with what you were just saying there, is when you were offered your book deals, not knowing all the details, but was it for more than one book? Did you have another book in mind when it went in, or was it just that one that got picked and then you've got to think of something else? So whereabouts are you in with that? So Hannah, go start with you.
I signed for 2 books, and the second one that I'm working on now, I actually wrote way before Very Nearly Normal. So I came up with the idea for about 6 years ago. It's changed a lot since then, but it's a story I'm like really passionate about and think is like quite important. So I really just wanted to, even though Very Nearly Normal got me there, I always wanted to make sure that this book saw the light of day as well.
Excellent. Has it changed your approach at all with the second book, knowing what you know about how Very Nearly Normal went through all the process and everything? Has it changed your approach as a writer?
I think I'm editing as I go now. I'm kind of writing something and then go, well, that's not going to make the cut, going straight back and going through it again. I think I've kind of turn my brain into like an editing machine, which is quite good.
How about you, Hayley? Did you have your second book in mind when this one was taken on, or have you been writing it as you've been?
Yeah, so we pitched a couple of books because I've got quite a few ideas for books it's one of my hobbies. I should say it's my job now. It's always come up with, good ideas for stories. I, always used to carry a little notebook around with me, and, so I had a couple of ideas. One, this was submitted to Avon, and one of those 2 ideas was chosen to be the second book. So I did have an idea there. It was just a little, it's more of a little seed, and it's grown. But working away at that one now.
And have you found writing that, like I asked Hannah, have you found that writing that and knowing what you now know about the process and how it works?
I agree with Hannah. I'm editing a lot more as I go along. I'm also, because I'm also know I've got a good relationship with my editor at Avon. I'm a little bit more relaxed on it not being perfect.
Yeah.
So I know I can get to the end and I can send an email and say, blah, 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 read it. But at the same time, I'm really aware of that chunk there, or I'm really aware, or I'd really like your opinion on this part. Whereas, before, when it was just getting sent out into the unknown, you're just hoping it's perfect, and you're just hoping someone's going to be like, yes.
Definitely.
Whereas this time it's not working. I feel like the team behind me who are going to be like, it's okay. So that's nice. Yeah, so it is different.
It's nice to have that support, because really when you're writing your first book, you don't have that, do you? Because even if you tell family and friends that you're writing, it's not the same as having someone who kind of understands that, you go through a process with a book, that you don't just have it all fully formed at the beginning, because that would be lovely, but that doesn't happen. So moving on from that, did you share your manuscript with friends and family before you sent it? Or are you waiting till it's all beautifully presented in a book before you give it to them? Hannah, what's happening? What did you do?
Before I got my book deal, literally no one knew that I was a writer. I kept it really secret. So no one read anything apart from my mum, who has read Very Nearly Normal about 15 times already. I don't tend to share it before it's like in proof form. So like early release copies, I don't really tend to share it before that, just because I want to kind of keep it as mine for a bit longer.
Yeah.
Because once you release a book, it's now everyone's. So I tend to just let close people like my parents or boyfriend read it. But other than that, I keep it quite exclusive.
You do want to hang on to it, don't you? Because you are aware the moment that it gets signed off, that it kind of belongs to everybody, and it's still yours, but not in the same way. It's not your little story anymore.
Yeah.
How about you? Did you show it to anyone? Did you dare show it to anybody before it went out?
Nobody had read it. Nobody except for my husband had heard a lot of it. So I would read out a lot of the chapters to see if, if he thought something was funny, if he thought something was, if I was describing something in Dubai, do you think I got this bit right? He'd be making dinner and I'd be sitting in the kitchen and reading bits out. Because I do find reading out aloud really helps the writing as well. That's a really good tip that someone gave me. But other than him, getting these sporadic bursts of me reading to him, and you know what, I'll never even know if he was listening, polite about it. But I'll never really know. No, nobody read it until it came out. Even my mum, she saved it for a train ride from Liverpool to London, and it was really nice. Her compliment was, what she said was such a compliment. She's like, I hope you don't think this isn't a compliment, but I couldn't believe you wrote it. And I said, that's actually amazing, because she saw me as an author, not her daughter, because she's always going to be proud of me. That's lovely. She's great like that. But she couldn't believe that I'd written that. And she's like, I really don't want you to take that the wrong way. I was like, no, I know what you mean. I took it the right way, and that's amazing. Thank you.
Mums are great. I worry about my mum gets the first sort of finished copy, because I always get sent a couple of copies first before my author copies turn up, and mum always gets one of those. And it is because my mum loves the book, and she'll say, I love the book, it's great, and then she'll go, on page 42 you use this phrase, did you mean that from that? It's like having my English homework marks, and I love it. She knows this because my mum is a voracious reader, but then she'll say, like, Hilary Mantel wouldn't write it that way.
Oh, great.
That's wonderful. Okay, so brilliant question from Philip Sunderland, who says, when you were writing your books, did you cast any particular actors as your characters? we said we're talking Dreamcast. I think we're talking Dreamcast. So if it's going to get made, did you have a cast in mind? Did you have some authors will put up kind of a mood board with people that are there, or later in the thing, you know, so if they come and offer you a film deal tomorrow and you get a say in the casting, who's going to play your lead characters? Who's going to go first? Hannah, go first on that one.
I kind of find it hard to cast a character as my main one, because I kind of see my story through their eyes. But I think someone quirky like Emilia Clarke would be really good as Effie. As for Theo, I pretty much wrote that for an actor that kept popping into my head whenever I wrote him. He's an actor called Bradley James, who was King Arthur in the Merlin TV series.
Oh, good choice.
Yeah.
Excellent. I'm loving it. How about you, Hayley?
So there's two actors that pop to mind, and I actually am going to hate myself for saying this, because I am so passionate about Liverpool actors getting Liverpool parts. But there's two actors who I don't even think they're not from Liverpool, but they've been in films and they've nailed Scouse accents.
Okay.
That's okay then. That's okay then. And one of them was Jamie Bell, who, you know, Billy Elliot, grown up Billy Elliot. He did a beautiful film, Film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool.
Oh, that's a wonderful film. Yeah.
And there's something just about, that sort of that understated little sort of swagger he's got. That was very Jim. I was like, Jamie Bell would be a good Jim.
Excellent.
So sorry to the Scouse actors, but I know there's a better, talented Scouse actor out there who's going to smash it. And I will fly that flag for you. So, if Jamie Bell isn't available.
Excellent. So who would play Zara? Would you play her yourself?
No, and the thing is, I would have loved to have read her on the audiobook, because I am an actress. I trained as an actress before I became a writer. But I'm not from where she's from, and I wanted the authentic accent. She has a very expat American crossed with a kind of Middle Eastern, Lebanese, then English boarding school accent. She's got a really muddled accent, and as much as, as an actress, you're trained to do accents and you can put them on. I think it would have been, I wanted someone authentic to do it. It's funny, the book I'm writing at the moment, my character, I won't say anything about her, but I can just see Greta Gerwig playing her.
Oh,
I would love Greta Gerwig to play her. Yeah.
That'd be brilliant.
Yeah, that's kind of who I've modelled what she looks like on. But I just love her. She's just so great. Yeah.
Excellent.
Female crush on her.
Who would play Zara in the movie of Never Saw You Coming?
See, I just don't know. I haven't seen her yet. When I've been watching films and TV shows, I haven't quite seen her yet. There is a young actress who I worked with back in Dubai who's doing very well in the States at the moment. She's been in a few TV shows. She's actually half Irish, half Lebanese, and she's about the right age and everything, and she would be great actually. Her name is Natasha Karam.
Okay.
And yeah, she's kind of a real up and coming actress in LA at the moment, and she was one of my students back in Dubai, and she'd be fab. Yeah.
So she could have her big break is going to be your movie.
I know, I'm all about the unknowns getting their big break. I haven't been an actor myself, because there's so much talent out there, and so many actors get used again and again and again. They need a break. Let the new talent come in.
Excellent. Good answer. Brilliant. Okay, so let's have a look. We've got some more questions. What are you both looking forward to in regards to your publishing career? And what advice? A double question. Oh, we got two for the price one. And what advice would you give to aspiring writers? So what are you looking forward to the most moving forward, first off? And then what advice would you have? So if we do it, answer whichever bit you want. Hannah, do you want to go first?
The thing I'm looking forward to most is when we get out of lockdown and I get to go to a Waterstones and see my book in there.
Oh yes, because you can't. Yeah, of course we can't go and see them.
Yeah, we've still not seen our books in a bookshop.
No. Oh, that is the best. And it's really weird because before you published, I think you think you're going to go in there with you know, the t-shirt with the you know, with the cover on, and a loud hailer and big pointy signs. And I don't know, I was very kind of British, and just kind of went up and kind of stroked it. But it's all good. Yeah, make the most of it. That's well, it will come. Yeah, definitely. How about you, Hayley?
Yeah, or just, you know, I've always wanted to see my book in an airport. You know, you're just going on holiday and it's like, oh, hello. Or, you know, an airport in a different country.
Oh, that's good.
You know, that's kind of, you know, quite cool. But also, being a writer it's a very, very solitary job, as we know. And having been trying to become an author for so long and having to work so much on my own, I do like the idea of actually the career taking me out to meet people. And you know, the way we're talking now, I know we're on Zoom right now, but this is the highlights, these like highlights of my new career now, like talking to you lovely ladies, and you know, we're talking work, which is what a joy. And actually getting out there and meeting people in the publishing, in the author community, in the book community, talking books face to face. I'm really excited about that. I really hope things like that can open up.
It's really, I think the loveliest thing, the book community, it rocks. Readers and bloggers and other people in publishing and other authors, it absolutely rocks, and their support is fantastic. I think right now as well, when we all need it so much, people are turning to books and they love chatting about books, they love asking you questions, and it's really lovely because you'll start to get photos of people when lockdown finishes. You'll start to get photos of people's legs by a pool with your book, which is just the coolest thing. Often in countries you've not been to yet, so you just go like, oh cool, you know, I'm in the Seychelles, I've never been there, but my book's there. That's brilliant. It's so cool. And also the fact that I think as an author, if you share your journey with your readers, it's brilliant, because then you get their excitement back, and it feels a bit more collaborative, because it can feel just like you sat in an office writing for a long part of the time. So this is really, and it is really nice coming out and sort of seeing everybody. I know we're not in the same room, but it's so lovely that everybody gets a chance to share in it, which is really, really cool.
Miranda, have you seen anyone on a tube or a train reading your book?
First time was last year. So my 10th year of writing.
Amazing.
I wanted to, and I had people saying, oh, you know, something sort of surreptitious photos. I think it's probably kind of highly illegal that they'd taken on the tube with somebody reading my book, but I'd never seen it. And I was like, I've never seen anyone reading my book. And then I did a book festival. Yeah, I did a book festival last year, and I was walking from one venue to the next because we had various different things that we were doing. And there's a lady, it's a really nice day, and the lady was sat on the lawn reading my book. And I was like, oh, it's good. And then I didn't want to watch it for too long, because I think if she would think I was a stalker, because that's quite weird if you just jump on someone's house, that's my book. Or if I saw her face fall, because that would be the worst. She's really going, oh, it's rubbish. You know, that would be the worst. But yeah, you will see. And then nice thing as well is people will send you photos of your book that they've seen in the supermarket. So I have one gentleman who will send a photo of my book in every supermarket, and so it's kind of identical photos, but it's lovely. It's like, oh, Sainsbury's again, here we are. No, so it's lovely. And I think that's the thing that surprised me the most, is how much of a journey it can be, like, shared with people, because you do think it's going to be just you by yourself. And it's lovely to be able to kind of go out and see that, but it's all good. So here's a good question. Are both your books standalones? Is there likely to be a sequel? Because the one thing I found is that readers love your books, they will ask for a sequel whether there is one or not. So would you write a sequel to your books? Are you moving on to something different? How do you feel? We'll start with Hannah.
I wrote the first one with the idea of doing a couple more afterwards with Effie, just because I feel like she's going to reach new ages, and she's going to be annoyed and angry with those as well, which is going to give me a plot for a whole new book. So I have a fully formed idea for a sequel, if that comes about, hopefully, because I do want to get back to writing her, because I do miss her quite a bit.
I'd love a sequel of Very Nearly Normal.
Really? Yeah, just to know what happens next.
All the time.
Everything's going to go wrong, I'll just tell you that.
Well, it has to.
But that's good news. So you heard it here first. There are other books in the pipeline, which is exciting.
It's a sequel, isn't it? You know, if if people want a sequel, things are going to have to go wrong. If you want things to stay the way you like them, then just
little box.
But you know, because I've been published now for nearly a month, and a lot of my lovely messages, like I mentioned, like these strangers who love, you know, message me, are asking for sequels. They really want to know what happens next. I'd love to. I would really love to, and I do think there's room for a sequel for Never Saw You Coming. I do.
Yeah.
Excellent. I think
you left it very open, didn't you? For a
yeah, it's very open.
Yeah.
We're not giving anything away. There's so much stuff that you want, because you love the characters. I think that's it with both of your books. You feel so involved with the characters and their journey that you almost have, people talk about it being like a book hangover. So you get to the end and you're like, oh, but I kind of want to go and hang out with them again. And
it's a good way to describe the end. When I've finished a really good book, it's a book hangover, isn't it? Because I think
you sort of mourn it a little bit, because you've lost those people and they've gone. You feel like you've waved them off at a train station and you kind of want them to come back
again.
And I think, but that is a sign of a really good story, because I think when you get to the end of a book, if you get into the end and go, I cannot wait to finish this book, I don't care what's happening to them, they can go off into the sunset for all I care, I don't mind. But when you're really involved, and I think that's why then you will get a lot of people asking for sequels, because they want that experience again, and they want to hang out with those characters. And that's such a good thing. I felt that with both of your books. I was like, oh, so next which is a good thing. That's definitely a good thing. If you could have anybody giving you a pull quote, so a lot of books have pull quotes from famous authors. If you could have any famous author saying how brilliant your book is, because of course they would say how brilliant your book is, who would it be? Who are your favourite authors? Who do you love to get an endorsement from? Just throwing that one at you, sorry. Hannah, what do you reckon?
Probably either Jojo Moyes or Cecilia Ahern.
Oh,
yes, big fans of both of those.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, I'd love to get something from them.
Excellent. Obviously, Oprah and Reese Witherspoon are a given. So, Hayley, who would you like to get an endorsement from?
Absolutely, David Nichols.
Oh,
absolutely. I wanted to be a writer before I read his work, but when I started reading his work, it's so familiar to me. I think it's because he used to be an actor as well. So a lot of his characters are drawn from the kind of people that I just know. And he puts a lot of nostalgia in his writing, which I was really inspired by. I love writing nostalgia.
Yeah.
And if he could read my book and say, put a quote, I'd just be like, done. Thank you.
So if you're watching, request approve. You know where to go. Avon will happily send it.
He tweeted my publication.
Oh, wonderful! Because he's tweeting about all the books that are coming out. Oh, wonderful!
It's like virtual book launch thing, and I even sent him a private message to say thanks, and he got back to me. And I was just like, "This is amazing! What a guy!"
Oh, that is so cool. We have 10 minutes left. Can you believe how quickly this is going? It's been wonderful. So if you're watching and you want to ask a question to Hannah and Hayley, get them in now, because we've got a little bit of time. So there's things that we've not talked about, things that you've got burning questions, something you'd like to know about the books or about our authors, then get them in now, and I'll ask as many as I can before we come to the end. I'm going to look back and see. Let's have a look. I'm just looking at all that. I've got all my questions here, and then I've got ones turning up. So, okay, right. Let's talk dreams. Dream project. If you could write anything, a play, a film, a musical, series of novels, if you could collaborate with anybody, tell me what your dream writing project would be.
I think something like a screenplay would be really interesting to write, because obviously it's so different to writing a book, because there's not really much in the way of description. And I really enjoy writing dialogue and having people bounce off each other. So I think writing a screenplay would be really high up on my list.
Would it be a screenplay of your books that are out? Would it be something totally different?
I mean, I wouldn't pass up the opportunity.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously.
Yeah. Anything really with like a bit of humour in it, a bit of a sassy character or something. Yeah, I'd love to do something like that.
Brilliant. How about you, Hayley?
Yeah, I'm just sitting here dreaming now.
Got to dream, it's important. Definitely.
Screenplay, I would like to collaborate with someone on a screenplay. I did actually sit down to try and write a screenplay of that book about, the one when I was a little girl. And oh my goodness, it's a completely different kettle of fish. It's so interesting, but I'd have to really I'd need to work with someone who knows what they're doing for that. Anything collaborative when it comes to writing and creating stories. But I think the ultimate dream for me would be a book I've written to be made into a musical, because that is my background.
Wonderful.
And to be there with people watching the characters come out live. Kids plays, but I've not really sat down to write a play to be produced yet, because I wanted to be an author first and foremost. But I think part of this in the process, I would love to get one of these stories on stage.
Yes. That would be wonderful. A musical as well. Yeah. How wonderful.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And to do not even, not like your traditional musical, but even if it's just got really good music in and it's just very collaborative, and how just something very, very creative with music and telling the story. And I would love the opening night to be in Liverpool.
Excellent. I love this. There's a great question. That's great answers. That's great. Okay, Tess Garfield has asked, did you ever consider self-publishing? Do you think it's more difficult to get an agent on that road? Asking for a self-published friend who wants to backtrack. Ooh, I feel that one. Was it always going to be that you were going to send it to an agent? Was it traditional publishing route? Was that always where you were going to go, or did you consider other options?
I did both. It's such a long process. I'm so glad I'm finally here. I originally sent to agents a long time ago, before I really even studied the art of writing. Then I decided to self-publish, realised that even that is a huge, you have to dedicate your life really if you want the self-published book to do well.
Yeah.
It's not just put it out there and see. You can just put it out there and see, but who's going to buy it? Because you need to market it. You need to, have a strategy, and I felt at the time I needed to put a lot of money that I didn't have into it. So it wasn't for me, but it definitely can work for other writers. And so I just wanted to go down the traditional route. I wanted to get guided the right way. So I've done a little bit of both. I dabbled in the self-publishing. Like I say, it wasn't for me, but it definitely works for others.
Excellent. Hannah, how about yourself?
I did think about it a long time ago, but again, it was that, you get it published, you get a box of your books, and it's like, well, what do I do with it now? And I'm the kind of person that if I was posting about it online, I'd be like, sorry, it's me again. I did write this book. Could you just have a look at it? But I'm not like, I don't know nothing about marketing. So they'd just have stayed in the box, basically, if I had. But if you do have that kind of marketing, outgoing trait, then I know it can work for people.
Excellent.
I think what helps me on social media now is the fact that I do have Avon, HarperCollins behind me. So it's given me that confidence to say, hey, everyone, buy my book. Whereas if I didn't have that, I feel like you, Hannah, I would be like, sorry, please. Sorry.
I think Avon are fantastic, and that is where my writing career started, and I don't think that I would be as confident as an author now if I had 6 years with Avon, and then I'm back with HQ now, so I'm back at HarperCollins, and I think there's something really lovely about that. You feel like you're a part of a family. And for being a new writer as well, that's so important, because you do feel like you're flying blind. I think for the first 3 or 4 years I felt like a rabbit in headlights. I wasn't really sure what had happened or if I could do it again, and it was so nice to have somebody at the other end of an email or at the end of a phone call saying, yeah, you can do it, it's great, we really believe in you. And I think that's a lovely thing to have. We've got a bit of a funny one as we're coming up to the end of it now. What's your go-to writing snack? So when you're doing your writing, what's the snack of choice? Does it change through the process? Do you have different snacks for writing? Does it change closer to the deadline? What do you think?
The amount I eat closer to a deadline gets a lot more. But I've recently discovered giant Whatsits.
Hello.
And everyone needs to invest in them, because they're the most addictive thing I've ever eaten in my whole life. They're amazing.
So you've heard it. So we need a sponsorship deal for you. Next book. You can win a year's supply of giant Whatsies.
Oh, that would be amazing.
We don't do enough with endorsement and stuff. I think we need to have that. How about you, Hayley? What do you go for?
So I'm really missing it at the moment, because I mainly do all my writing in my little local coffee shop, which is obviously right. I'm really missing an oat milk cappuccino from there. It kind of really kickstarts my day. It's something specific about the way they make. I mean, I drink normal milk as well, but the way they make an oat milk cappuccino, and it kickstarts my day. Yeah, that. But other than that, it's just chocolate, 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 cup of tea and chocolate, cup of tea and chocolate, any chocolate. So if anyone wants to sponsor me, any chocolate companies, just send it.
Okay. All of the chocolate companies, all of the snack companies, we are here. We have a ready group of followers who will quite happily buy your products.
Yeah.
I did try writing it into a book. So actually, my first book mentioned Yorkshire tea, and I was waiting for the endorsement. Nothing happened. And then a few years later, they were talking about something else. They were saying we've never been immortalised in literature, and I was like, well, actually, you have, because on page so and so, I think. And they sent me a big box of tea and a teapot. It's the only time it ever worked. And then the next book I wrote after that, my other half was going, put a Ferrari in, write it in and see if it doesn't work. It doesn't work. But Yorkshire tea were on it. They were brilliant. But yeah, generally not. But I think this could be a whole area that we haven't looked at. It could be brilliant. Right, coming to the end, have you got any last minute, one sentence advice to a new writer? So there's people that are at home now trying to write, especially in the current situation as well. What would be your advice to someone who is writing right now?
My advice would be to not give up, because you take a lot of knockbacks, get a lot of people saying no to you, and I think you need to take the upset that causes and make it fuel your next work.
Excellent, great advice. Hayley, what's yours?
Just write. Don't talk about it. Just actually, no one's going to write that book except for you. And read. The more you read, the better writer you'll be.
Definitely. Wonderful. I think my advice would be exactly the same that you said, but also that you've got to really champion your book. You've got to be your book's biggest cheerleader, because you've got to believe in it before anyone else thinks it can be a hit. And so you've just got to, that's what's got to fuel you sitting down and writing it, I think, is just to think, yeah, this is absolutely possible that people are going to read this book, so I'm going to make it the best book that I can. Mm-hmm. Thank you. And with that, I'm going to hand back to Beth. Thank you so much, ladies. It's been a wonderful chat.
Thanks so much, ladies. That was a brilliant hour's chat, and I'm sure our listeners have got so much out of it. If you've been inspired by Hannah and Hayley, which I'm sure that you have, then please do head over to avonbooks.co.uk/submissions, and we cannot wait to read your novel. And who knows, maybe in the future you'll be doing just one of these video chats yourself with your very own book. I'm now going to go and try and find where I can find some giant what's-its, because I don't
You won't regret it.
I know, that's a good idea, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your Friday lunchtime with us, and thank you so much for Miranda for doing a brilliant job of hosting. So lovely to see you all, and have a great Friday afternoon and a weekend.
You too.
Bye everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.